delighted to have with us a very special guest today. Ben Shapiro's with us, and perhaps you've heard of Breitbart News. He is now the newly named editor-at-large there at that organization. He's authored quite a few books. In fact, his latest one is called Primetime Propaganda, and then his latest book, the one before that, is Brainwashed, which I have a copy here, and forward by David Limbaugh. Ben, what a delight to have you. Welcome.
And thanks for having me.
And congratulations on your new appointment. Tell us about Breitbart News and some of the things you guys do there.
Well, you know, what we're focused on mainly is vetting the president, vetting the media, ensuring that stories that have been off the radar of the mainstream media, shall we say, get the proper attention. We do a lot of investigative journalism. You know, Andrew Breitbart obviously was a major media figure, tremendous loss to everybody who knew him. And we try to carry forward his legacy of citizen journalism.
Well, you guys are doing a wonderful job, and again, congratulations to your new appointment and your book. And I know there's a lot of things we can talk about, but let's get into this Dan Savage controversy, who was really kind of ordained by the Obama administration to go after anti-bullying, but yet here he is being one of the greatest cyberbullies himself.
Oh, yeah. Dan Savage is one of the largest bullies in American politics today, and he was picked by the Obama administration. He runs something called the It Gets Better Project. The It Gets Better Project is this anti-bullying campaign. It's specifically focused on, you know, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender teenagers and how nobody should bully them. Well, I don't know anybody who disagrees with that sentiment, but Dan Savage, who runs the thing, happens to be a massive bully. Dan Savage is the guy who Google bombed Rick Santorum. If you remember, 6 months back, Rick Santorum, if you Googled his name, he came up with this really, really obscene sexual term. It was really disgusting. That was Dan Savage's doing. He had decided that he was going to go after Rick Santorum for standing up for traditional marriage, and so he Google bombed Rick Santorum. This goes all the way back to 2000. Dan Savage was writing for Salon.com, which is a wild leftist publication, and he decided he was going to infiltrate the Gary Bauer campaign. Gary Bauer was running for president at the time. And in the Iowa caucuses, Savage decided to infiltrate. So how did he go about doing that? Well, he decided he wasn't just going to get the inside scoop about Christian conservatives. He was actually going to infect everybody at the Gary Bauer campaign with the flu. The way he was going to do this is by going around the office licking doorknobs. Yes, you heard that right, putting his tongue all over the doorknobs at the Gary Bauer offices, licking all of the coffee cups, making sure that everybody touched a surface and licking the keyboards. He licked a pen and then handed it to Bauer, trying to give everybody the flu. This is the kind of guy this fellow is. He said, for example, that he wishes all the Republicans were effing dead. He has said about Green Party candidate, right? And it's not just about right-wingers. He said about Green Party candidate Carl Romanelli in Pennsylvania. He said that he wanted Romanelli to be dragged behind a truck until there was nothing left but the rope. He's called Justice Scalia a seasucker. He said F John McCain. He said that he wants to F the S out of Rick Santorum. He said that he's called on Herman Cain to suck his blank. I mean, he's really one of the worst people on earth. And he's also just happens to be the White House's chosen spokesperson for the anti-bullying campaign.
Why hasn't I know it's gotten some press lately. Will this press exposure have any legs to it? Will it cost him his job, or is it just something that'll pass through?
Well, we're gonna have to hold the Obama administration accountable. I mean, what really triggered this last round was that over the last couple of weeks, Savage spoke at the National High School Conference of Journalists, which is, first of all, I don't know why he's speaking to high schoolers. It's insane. And in fact, the organizers came out yesterday and they reversed themselves. On Sunday, they said we were happy to invite him. Yesterday, they came out and they said, "Oh, that was a big mistake." The reason it was a big mistake is because he gets up in front of a bunch of high schoolers and starts ripping into the Bible as BS. Except he didn't use the word BS. He used the entire word. And he also, when Christian students got up and started walking out, he proceeded to call them pansy asses. He said that they were pansy ass for walking out on his speech, which is absurd. I mean, the fact is that that's exactly what you're supposed to do when people say offensive things. You're supposed to get up and walk out. If Barack Obama had done the same with Jeremiah, that never would have been an issue. But he was insulting and bullying high school kids. And so this has become somewhat of a hubbub. But the real question here is why the Obama administration associated with him in the first place. When I say that he's their hand-chosen spokesperson on this, he really is. I mean, he visited the White House in June 2011. There are pictures of him with Joe Biden and Dan Savage's partner, Terry Miller, pictures of them with Jill Biden, pictures of Dan Savage with Kevin Jennings, who at the time was the Safe Schools czar. The White House website has references to Dan Savage's It Gets Better project, and President Obama, Vice President Biden, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Secretary of Health and Human Services Kathleen Sebelius, the Department of Justice, all of them, Nancy Pelosi, all of them have cut videos on behalf of Dan Savage's project. So it just goes to show you that when it comes to this administration's anti-bullying efforts, they're perfectly happy to watch right-wingers, Christian conservatives get bullied. All they really care about is ensuring that their point of view gets out.
Dan, Ben, I'm hearing another term in the press now. It's called the religious left. And I'm beginning to see this appear more and more. Are you tracking that? And is that something as a sign of things to come, to split the left off from the right and to demonize the right?
Oh, no question about it. I mean, this is something the left is fond of doing, is co-opting terminology. And certainly there's been a religious left for some time, by which I mean there's been a left that calls itself religious for a long time. And you've already seen it pervert a number of churches and synagogues. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I've seen it within the Jewish community for certain. The idea that the Bible can be read any which way. It can be just like the liberals like to read the Constitution. That's how the Bible can be read. Nothing in it really matters except the admonition that God is love, or to love thy neighbor. Everything else is just, nonsense. That can be ignored at will. This is something that the left likes to push. Dan Savage is a big advocate of this because he recognizes that the largest obstacle to his gay marriage campaign, for example, tends to be the folks who consider themselves religious in this country and adhere to the Bible. So he's always been a big opponent of biblical worldview.
All right. Let me fast forward a little bit since I have you. Get into the election cycle and where you think we are. I mean, a lot of the numbers say this is going to be a tight race, but yet I can't see this president getting any traction on anything. And the latest foofball that he had was the Osama bin Laden and accusing Romney that he would have never pulled the trigger. My stars, where's this thing going to go?
Yeah, I mean, what a bunch of nonsense that was. I mean, anybody would have pulled the trigger on bin Laden unless they were somebody like Ron Paul or somebody like Dennis Kucinich. I mean, if you're insane, you don't pull the trigger on bin Laden. If you're sane, you pull the trigger. But Obama, by the way, took full credit for the thing, even ticking off the Navy SEALs in the process, because he's pretended that he was the be-all, end-all when it came to the bin Laden story, which is just crazy. He's not getting traction on the issues, but Obama is getting traction with the crowd that for him matters, which is the people who he gives free stuff to. This is the entire Democratic platform, is I'm going to give you free stuff. Truly, it's amazing that Republicans ever win elections in this country, considering that their platform is, I'm not going to give you free stuff, go out and get a job. I mean, that's a far less attractive platform than, here's a bunch of your neighbor's money. We're nearing the tipping point in this country where more people are receiving government cash than are paying into the system. Obama's counting on that. That's why, despite being one of the worst presidents in American history, I would say second to only to James Buchanan, President Obama still maintains a 48% approval rating. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. George W. Bush, who was certainly no picnic when it came to a lot of issues, but George W. Bush was down in the 30s because conservatives recognize that George W. Bush does things wrong. Barack Obama and Democrats are much more solidified. So Romney has an uphill fight in the sense that he has to fight an entrenched bureaucracy that has an interest in preserving itself. But when it comes to the issues, there's no question that Romney has a significant advantage.
All right. I'm very encouraged to see your generation so engaged. Are you tracking that as well? It seems more and more young people get it now, and they get it quicker.
Yes. I mean, I think that young people are turning on this. We're recognizing that we can't expect the government to pay for everything. I mean, this is what makes America unique, really, truly. Every other country where there are issues like America has fiscally, people are protesting for more goods from the government, right? Everything looks like Occupy Wall Street. The fact is, in this country, most things tend to look more like the Tea Party. We're protesting for government to get the heck out of our lives so that we can do our jobs and take care of our families. That's why I have hope for the country. I think young people recognize there's not going to be a country left to hope for if we continue down the path of Obamaism.
All right. So where do you see this going? I mean, he does seem to be losing support among young people and some of his core supporters. And I know that the current polls show them tight, but, I can't help but think this could be a landslide.
I'm hoping it's a landslide, obviously. I think that Romney, realistically speaking, I think Romney will win Florida and Virginia. It's a question of whether he can pick up Ohio. The only question in Ohio is that Romney doesn't come off as blue collar, right? This is the same issue that he had with Rick Santorum. But there is no question that right now all support for Obama is relegated to the big cities along the seaboards. When it comes to the middle of the country, there are a lot of states that won Obama last time, like Indiana and Wisconsin, that are really going to be in play for Romney this time, because as long as the economy stays this bad and as long as this president insists that the only way out of this is to spend more money and to steal more money from those who work, he's going to have a problem.
All right. How much is Israel going to be a problem for him?
it's going to be a significant problem for him. I mean, the Jewish community that cares about Israel, and by the way, you notice the language there. I don't say the Jewish community more broadly. There are plenty of Jews who don't give a damn about Israel. Yeah. But the Jewish community that cares about Israel has turned on him to a major extent. And obviously, the Christian community that cares about Israel is not pleased with him in any way, shape, or form. And the Obama administration is running scared from a lot of the Jewish community right now, which is why, for example, they went to Media Matters and forced Media Matters to get rid of the anti-Semitic M.J. Rosenberg. They're very scared of being associated with this. What's really going to be the question is when and if Israel hits Iran, which I think is going to happen before the election because Israel has been forced into a corner here by the Obama administration. If Obama gets elected, they know there will be no support forthcoming from the United States. So they're forced to hit before the election in the hope that perhaps domestic pressures will force Obama to back them. If they hit before the election, it'll be very interesting to see what the response of the Obama administration is. It'll probably be pusillanimous because that's who they are. And then it will be interesting to see how the American public respond to that.
Wow. Boy, I'd like to have you back extensively more on that a little bit later on. All right, but the article that I was reading this morning suggests that Romney may have a tough time with the Electoral College at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very, very close. I don't think it's going to be a 300 to 180 or whatever it is landslide. I think this is going to be much closer to a 280 to 260, 280 to 250 thing because Obama's states are very solid. He's basically got 220 electoral votes locked up already. Romney has to come from a place where the only electoral votes that he has locked up are places like Texas, places like to South Dakota, places like Arizona. Those are states that are safe for Romney. The states that are safe for Obama tend to be much larger. California, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts. Those are all states that are locked up for Obama. Michigan. All those states are trending Obama. So it's going to be a close election. I think we're beyond the age, honestly, in this country of massive electoral landslides. I don't think that we're going to see another time in this country's history, at least for the foreseeable future, where we have a real blowout in the Electoral College just because we are so divided along political lines. There are those who take and there are those who give, and those who take are pretty close to 50% of the population at this point. Fascinating.
Hey, Ben, can we get you back?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
What a delight and an honor. Keep up the good work and give our very best to your whole team there, will you?
Definitely will. Be well.
Okay, thank you. Ben Shapiro with us this morning. We'll take a quick break here on Focus Today, and we'll be right back.